Good morning. My name's Joey Atencio. I'm the Business Manager, Secretary, Treasurer of the Labor's International Union of North America, Local 16. I got my career started way back in 84. My father got hurt on the job, dropped a pipe on him and broke his back. I had to drop out of school and start working to help support my family. Construction's been a good industry. It's provided me with a good living. I've raised 2 boys, and both are college graduates now. People talk about construction being a dead-end job. It's not. I started off as a laborer, and I worked my way up in various companies. I worked for Jay's Corporation for a number of years, became a labor foreman, learned a lot of things with Jay's. They gave me a lot of opportunities. As I told the last group, young man, I call him a young man, he's a little younger than I am, that runs the company now, Greg Krause. He started as an apprentice laborer under me. We both made good livings, choices that we made. When I got into the labor's union myself, I was just a laborer. I was given an opportunity to become a business agent in 1994 and took that opportunity and then slowly moved up the ranks through the union. Went from a union member to a agent for the union, ran for office, became a auditor for the local. Then I became the sergeant of arms, recording secretary. Eventually I became vice president, president of the local, and in 2012 I was elected as the business manager, secretary, treasurer of the local union, which I've held that position since 2012. Construction offers a good career, not just as a laborer, but there's other trades if labor ain't for you. You can be a carpenter, electrician, a plumber, truck driver. There's all kinds of opportunities out there. The nice thing about the construction industry is there's apprenticeship programs. Some of the programs are equal to a college diploma degree, 6 years of training. Nice thing is you have no debt when you're done. You're paid as you learn. But there's a lot of opportunities out there for the women that are in here. Young ladies, there's a lot of opportunities out there for you in construction. Right now I have probably close to 200 ladies working up in Los Alamos at the national labs in all aspects, custodial and construction. We have probably right at 30 ladies, young ladies working out at Facebook right now, making a career out there. I've got 36 years this year in the labor union, doing general construction. Not only did I work for James, I worked for Summit Construction, Kale House, MB Industries, worked out at Intel with a few of the contractors out there. Provides a good living for us. So, thank you.
Hi guys, my name is Victoria Burunda. I work for B&D Industries as a project coordinator. If you guys would have came to me and asked me at 17, 18 years old, what are you going to do with your life? I would have given you a blank stare and a smirk. I left public high school and I went to ACE Leadership when I was 16 years old. I ended up graduating from there. I didn't know if I wanted to go into construction, and I began taking internships. My first internship was with AGC New Mexico. I wasn't looking for a career, I was looking for experience. I didn't feel like there was a place for me as a woman in construction, and no one in my family worked in construction, so I wasn't going to be the first one. I was lucky enough to have a woman as my mentor. I saw Kelly. She took the industry by storm, and I watched in complete awe of her every day. And my time at AGC was short-lived, but I went on to work for Facebook soon after I graduated. At Facebook, I was able to study the drawings. I got to see different phases of construction, and that's where the starstruck moment happened. I realized that's something I want to do for the rest of my life. I realized that each phase of construction played a major role, regardless if you're behind the computer or in the field. I went to my parents, I said, Mom, Dad, I'm going to be in construction, I'm going to be a project manager. And they gave me this look of complete worry. And they said, Mija, there's no money in those jobs. You can do anything else, you're so smart. And I began to explain that some of the smartest people I had ever met were during my time working in construction. But I wasn't going to argue my points, I was just going to prove them wrong. I went on to work for B&D Industries, where I've been now for about a year and a half. I worked under Jamie Westerfield. I was very privileged to work under her. She was another woman I watched in complete awe. She carries herself with such confidence. She gave me the confidence to go after my position now as a project coordinator. Now I work under Kenny Easley. That man is 60 years old and he runs on caffeine and pure youth. It's hard to keep up with him. He has taught me so much in the little time that I've been with him. He's been in the industry longer than I've been alive. And I'm very grateful to have the opportunity to learn the ins and outs of my field in his eyes. So now that I've been in construction for about 4 years, since I was 16 years old, I realized that this is a place for me and that there was always a place for me. I just had to ask the right questions and talk to the right people. Everyone in this room wants to see you succeed and achieve your dreams, regardless if it's in the construction industry. Ask the right questions, make those connections now. When I got my job at Facebook, I was working at a small practice as a front desk. I got a call from my high school advisor. I hadn't talked to him for 4 months. I had just graduated. He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm working as a front desk." He said, "Get your resume, I'm gonna touch it up for you. I got you an interview at Facebook." Before I knew it, I was being flown out to California to get onboarded to one of the biggest tech companies in America. And I was in the field that next week, all because I made that connection when I was 16, 17 years old. So ask the questions. Everyone wants to see you succeed. Thank you for having me today. Thank you for having me at AGC.
Thanks, Tori. So I got a question for you all. How many of you have family members in construction? How many of you actually work with your family members in construction or grown up helping out your mom or your dad or your uncle? And that's kind of something that happened to me. I grew up a son of a carpenter up in northern New Mexico. My dad was just a high school graduate, knew he had some skill in the trade, and decided to start his own business. And actually was able to help me and my family grow up. He was able to provide for us and do everything for us, and actually we learned a lot from him. My brother and I grew up working in the shop with him. We grew up working actually almost every day, or in the summers we knew we needed to help him out, but it was always fun. I always knew that I was going to do something in construction. Being able to put your hands and you put your brain together, do a little bit of math, and construct something was always something that interested me. So by the time I was in high school, I started doing side jobs. My dad was able to get me jobs around town. My brother and I almost had our own little landscape company going. We were always busy trying to do something for the community and do something for the family as well. So you always kind of have that pride in being able to do something for your community and your family and what we do in this industry. It's actually very rewarding. I went on to the University of New Mexico when I was looking for a degree or a major to study in. I saw construction, so I got my degree in construction engineering. I knew I was going to stick to construction. I do work right now for Janes Corporation. I am the director of our salt reform operations. Anything that you guys have questions there for me, or? Thank you. And under my umbrella, I oversee about 150 to 170 craft workers around any time. We have various individuals and operations that run under several skilled trades. We have laborers, we have carpenters, we have finished carpenters, we have our own cabinet shop, we do custom casework, millwork, trim. We got concrete form setters, operators, I did mention that. And everybody that works under us, that works in our field operations, are actually all under a union trade. So Joey mentioned he's the business representative for the laborers union. We partner with the laborers union, we partner with the local carpenters union, operators, cement masons. And one of the good things about everybody that works under our umbrella and works under these unions is they're able to provide for their family, but they're also to have benefits. They're also to be able to have insurance for their family, they're able to care for their family, and I actually have a pension. So you may hear out there, son, don't go dig ditches, don't do that, there's nothing out there. You're not just digging ditches, you're setting up forms, you're building concrete walls, you're putting up drywall, you're creating spaces like this that we're sitting in today, right? And you're actually building your retirement plan, you're providing for your families, and you're growing. We have superintendents, even concrete foremen, concrete superintendents in our company that have been with the company for over 40 years. and they're proud of that. I got a concrete superintendent now that's had his son work for us. He can't wait till his grandson can work for us, and he wants his grandkids to work there. And one of the biggest things that motivates me on a daily basis is to be able to see our guys in the field that are proud every day when they finish and they say, hey, did we make our goal? Did we dig enough footings today? Did we place enough concrete? Did we get the trim sanded right? And they're proud of that because they know they can go home and they can provide for their family. There's so many opportunities in construction. You drive by the freeway, I think you've all probably seen the new Presbyterian Hospital that's going on. I've been able, fortunately, to see that project from the beginning. Been able to put together a plan, see the drawings, make sure the estimate works, but then to be able to see carpenters and laborers actually come up on that project and grow and be able to see what their future is. So be thinking about, you're sitting here today, right? I said I had aspiration of being in construction at high school. Maybe you all haven't had that yet, but maybe today's that seed that can get planted. So think about that. And when you drive by these projects and you see these cranes going up and you see all these cool things happening, anybody in this room can do that. And there's plenty of skill you can grow from it, and there's a future, there's benefits, there's retirement, and there's plenty there for you. You can move up into many positions, move into the office, be a CEO, like the example that Joey told us. So remember today and remember the seed that could be planted, because there is a future there. Thank you.
Hey everybody, my name's Aaron Stricker. I'm a superintendent with Bradbury Stamp Construction. I wanted to follow up on something you said, Andrew. You know, the seed of construction. I think back to when I was a senior in high school. Are you guys seniors?
No, I'm sophomore.
Sophomores? Wait, how old is everybody here?
All ages.
All ages. I think back to when I was like 17 years old, and I was like a junior or senior, and everybody's asking you, even younger than that, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? Where do you want to be when you graduate? What are you going to do? And I never had a good answer for that. I never thought about construction, not even one time. I went to college kind of because I had no other plans. So I went to school. I'll never tell you guys that college is a bad thing, but I studied philosophy in college. You guys don't do that. That is a waste of time. I got out of school, I graduated, and I sort of found myself right back in the same place I was when I graduated high school. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what my plans were. I didn't know how I was gonna pay for my apartment. I mean, I still had all these same questions. My little brother had a summer job that year. He was working in construction, actually. He got a summer job. He said, hey, we need more guys on the crew. We're tearing a house down, we're rebuilding it, we're doing all this stuff. And I went out there and I worked with him for a week. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a cool job. I thought it was fun working with the crew. I could see that I was learning new things. And I'd never thought about construction before, but it was a good fit for me. I started out with no experience, and I guess that's the message I have for you guys today. There are jobs out there. You don't need to know how to swing a hammer. I didn't know how to swing a hammer. You don't need to know how to operate a backhoe. They'll teach you that. There's jobs that you guys can get as soon as you get out of school in construction. Joey, would you hire, you'll hire anybody that comes to your door pretty much, right?
As long as they come in and meet the bare requirements of a GED, high school diploma, driver's license, and can pass a drug test. We'll put you to work.
We'll put you to work. Guys, construction's been good to me. I started out at the bottom. I was literally sweeping floors, carrying sheetrock. I learned how to become a carpenter. Once I became a carpenter, I became a foreman. I had a crew of carpenters working for me. Today I'm a superintendent and I get to run entire projects. Right now I'm working at the zoo actually, at the Biopark Asia exhibit. Sea eagles, snow leopards, tigers, orangutans, siamangs, their homes, their habitats, all of the stuff for the public, big netted enclosures. It's a cool project. I hear about projects like Andrew's, big cranes right over the freeway there on Central and I-25. I mean, those are cool projects. Tori, you're working at Facebook right now and at the labs. I mean, these are the biggest things in New Mexico right now, and they all need people. We need people for every single job you can imagine. I think one of the best things about jobs in construction, you can start from zero as long as you keep showing up, as long as you have a good attitude. people will teach you. They'll show you new skills. They'll bring you up. And there's nothing that makes me happier personally than seeing somebody young, somebody inexperienced coming up. I remember my first job in New Mexico 10 years ago when I was a carpenter. My laborer was brand new. Today, he's got his own project. He's a superintendent like me. So there's a path forward, guys. It's not a dead-end job. You start out down low, but the sky is literally the limit. Apply yourselves, show up every day, and there's a lot of opportunity in construction. The jobs are there, and the jobs are everywhere. Once you learn a trade, once you learn skills, you know, I grew up in Seattle. I moved to New Mexico 10 years ago. I had a job the week I showed up. You guys can travel anywhere in the world, and your skills travel with you. So there's that flexibility and there's that freedom. It's not an easy job, guys. Sometimes it's dirty. Sometimes you're going to be real tired at the end of the day. You're working outside, but it's a rewarding job, and it's a good job.
How much does a carpenter make annually with Bradbury?
So a carpenter with Bradbury STEM makes $30 an hour, so that's about $60,000 a year, and that's without college, without any formal training, without going to trade school. I think, Joey, guys that are coming in fresh out of high school, starting out around just under $15
Just
an
under
hour.
$15 an hour.
Yeah, and that, you know, that sounds okay, but maybe you're thinking, well, I could just go to Costco or Walmart and work there. But in 2 years, you're bumped up to 17, 18. After 4 years, you're making over 20. After 6 years, you're a full carpenter. You could be 24 years old and making $60,000 a year. It's not a crazy story, guys. And again, no college debt, nothing like that. It's you in charge of your own future. So there's good jobs. I think, you know, we talk about carpenters because I'm a carpenter. There's a lot of jobs, guys. I mean, just looking around this room, carpenters built the walls and did the sheetrock. Flooring guys did the floor. Electricians did the lights. Electricians and plumbers, some of those guys are making $60,000, $80,000, $100,000 a year is not crazy for an electrician or a plumber, guys. It sounds kind of crazy, but those are really good jobs out there, and they're always going to be in demand. Any other questions you guys have about the business?
I have a question for Tori. What do your parents say now?
Well, now they're my biggest support system, and I'm very grateful for them. Don't tell them I said that about them. They realize that this is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and they're very proud of me and going after something that was different than my siblings. All my siblings are in healthcare, and I was thinking about going to healthcare because it was easy and I knew about it. And my parents would have been proud either way, but now they realize that this is where I'm supposed to be.
And you were literally sitting in an auditorium like this not more than 3 years ago.
Yes, I did graduate in 2019. I left public high school when I was 15 though, and I did go to ACE. But at ACE, that's where I found my biggest support system, and they helped me get my foot in the door. And that could be you. That could be one of your teachers. You just have to ask for the right tools to help make yourself successful. You're in charge of your future, and no one else is.
Tori, was it weird being a woman going into construction? Like, what did you find? What were your like preconceptions, and what did you find when you actually like started working?
Definitely. That's exactly why I didn't want to go into construction, especially when I first became an intern. But then I realized that every occupation was male dominated at one point, and getting my foot in the door is going to be scary no matter where I start because I was so young. But now I know that there is women all over the construction industry, and they're not hard to find. They're not these super rare gems. We have women in the field like kicking butt, and the women that I know in the field are some of the strongest women I know, and they run it out there. We have a foreman that runs one of our carpentry projects with Bowtown. Her name's Nicole Romero, and you know what? Those guys are scared of her, and they respect her, and she's one of the women that I look up to, and it's not hard to gain respect. They respect you, and coming in, it's scary, but everything's a little scary at first.
So one of the things I'll say, guys, is just food for thought, because we got all ages here, from sophomores to seniors, is your actions and your decisions in life outside of school and in school, can affect you for the rest of your life. And what I mean by that is how it's gonna limit you on what your future's gonna be. Start getting in trouble with the law, DWIs, drugs, you just name it, any variety of things. Those things can affect your ability to make a good living through life. It's something I deal with on a daily basis with our national labs because they do background checks. Now, national labs, they pay top dollar. All the benefits, all the bells and whistles, it's some of the most sought after jobs. But what we're faced with now is young kids coming out of high school, they're getting themselves into trouble with the law, and they can never get a job there because of their background. Now, a lot of us people think that, oh, well, I got in trouble as a kid, it's not gonna affect me as an adult. Unfortunately, when it comes to the government and their background checks, things you do as a youth can affect you later on in life. So always think about what you're doing and make the right decision, because some of these bad decisions can affect you in life. Like I was telling the guys earlier, I had a 23-year-old young man come to see me wanting to better his life. He's working at McDonald's or Target, one of those stores. He wants to do something better with his life. But when he came to me, he has 6 DWIs. It broke my heart to have to tell him that where he is at is the career for the rest of his life because he can't get a driver's license for the next 20 years. And it's sad because you see somebody young that has the will and the ambition to move up and do better for himself, but because of his decisions, he can't do that. He's stuck where he's at. So just remember the decisions you make when you're young can affect your ability to make a decent living later on in life. We don't want to see that. It hit me hard to see this young man trying to make a better life for himself and not have that ability because of some dumb decisions that he made, unfortunately. Now, hopefully, here in the future, somebody will have some compassion at the state level. They'll give him his driver's license back, and then we can work with him. But it's going to be a while.
Question, when you all are screening a potential person for an internship or apprenticeship, I noticed that you guys said that they can have either a GED or high school diploma.
Yes.
But when you're, obviously I would assume that the high school diploma tells you this is a more stronger applicant because they went through the 4-year trials and tribulations, so
Yes.
it speaks more to their work ethic and stuff like that than the GED, correct?
Yes.
So when I'm giving you guys a hard time about your attendance in the hallway and that you need to graduate, that's the reason why. Because I know that when you get to the real world, even if you get that GED, it's not going to be looked at as the same as when you get that high school diploma, because that diploma speaks more, even though they're equivalent documents, that the high school diploma speaks more to your character than that GED is.
And the other thing, guys, so you guys understand, and it's the big elephant that's in the room that I think all of us in this industry are facing, is you all know that the state legalized recreational use of marijuana. One thing you gotta understand is it may be legal at the state level, but I can tell you 100% of my contractors that are signatory with us all follow federal law. So if you smoke on the weekend because it's legal, just know that if you get a drug test during the week, you're gonna lose your job because companies are following federal law, which is still illegal. So none of the construction companies that I know of, or that are reputable companies, will take anybody that can't pass a drug test. So just remember that just because it's legal doesn't mean you can do it and still get into the industry or just about any industry. If you look at Facebook, they do pre-hire and random drug testing throughout their project, even for their own employees. When we started Facebook, I went out, they actually made me take a drug test. I don't even work on site, I'm just coming out to represent my people. I had to go take a drug test. What we found out, the reason why they were doing that is people were using synthetics to try to mask their urine for the drug test. And when they did a test to see how many people, they actually started with their own in-house people. and they ended up with, I think it was 30% of in-house people failed their drug test. So they started cleaning house. I can tell you in the last, Facebook's been going for 3 years, 4 years now, I think.
About 4.5.
I probably lost 30 or 40 good guys out there due to a drug test. And not that they were on the job site smoking or anything, it was something they did off-site and then brought it to work. So that's why I say, just remember what you do today could affect you later on in life. Any other questions for any of us? Yes.
What's the average workday length of the construction worker?
So average, I would say, is more than likely you're looking at 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, but it depends on the project and a timeline. So we'll have projects that are 5/10s. I've been on projects that are 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. It just depends on the project and the timeline, how quick they want to get it done. But for the most part, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, 40 hours.
My job right now, usually the workday is pretty consistent. Start at 7, which is a little early but doable. But you do get out at 3:30 in the afternoon, so you have the whole afternoon, evening ahead of you. So that's a 40-hour week. Like Joey was saying, some trades actually do what they call 4/10s. So they work 10 hours a day from like 7 to 5:30, Monday through Thursday, and then you get a 3-day weekend every week. Sometimes the jobs get a little behind, and then you have the opportunity to make a bunch of overtime. So depending on what job you're on, you're usually, one of the good things about our industry is usually it's a very steady 40-hour week, and then there's usually the opportunity to get some overtime as well to make a little more money.
At our Sandia project, we do 4/10s, but if you do make overtime and you're working on a Saturday, you'll get double time, not just time and a half. So that means you're getting your hourly times 2 rather than your hourly plus half of what you make. So that's what we do at Sandia, and that's what we also do at Intel and our Los Alamos projects.
And like I say, it runs across the board. James, when I don't know if they changed, they don't, when we worked out of town, we didn't do 4/10s, we did 4 9s and a 4. So you work 9 hours a day, and then on Friday you'd work 4 hours and then head home. But it's across the board on the work hours.
Good question.
Yes, sir.
And you guys work on the national level or only in New Mexico?
So for me, as the representative for the labor's union, my laborers are here in New Mexico, but they can actually take their membership and transfer it anywhere in the United States to any of the local unions and work there. So I got guys that can go from here to California and work, Las Vegas. Anywhere they want to go, they can take their membership and go to work there. So you can go nationally.
A lot of variation in that. Like my company and Andrew's company work all across the state. So, I've done a couple jobs in Colorado. I did a job in El Paso, but mostly we're working, in the Albuquerque area or somewhere in New Mexico. But it depends a lot on who you work for. So there's some jobs that are out-of-town jobs. If that doesn't appeal to you, you can usually find work in town. So there's a lot of variation. I think that's like one of the things we should talk about too. Is like there's all different types of construction. There's there's big projects like building schools like these. There's residential homes which are smaller, and there's everything in between. So I think that's one of the things that I really liked about construction when I first started is I started building homes actually. So I was always, my job was 10 minutes away. I could get up in the morning, go straight to work. You're working with a little bit smaller of a team, and I like the people I work for. And then when I moved to New Mexico and got on with the company I'm with now, Bradbury, then all of a sudden I was on really big jobs. There could be 40, 60, 80, 100 people on the job at any time. So some people like that a little better. They find it a little more exciting. Some people like the pace of smaller jobs. So you can usually find something both, sort of what kind of job you're working on and also where you're working, in town, out of town, across the country. There's all sorts of jobs everywhere.
And there's also, depending on the companies, like they said, like there's J.B. Henderson here in town. They did work, they built a plant for Intel down in Costa Rica. They do a lot of work with Intel and another fab shop, or
New York.
semiconductor. back east, and is B and D back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
New York.
B and D goes
Yeah.
back east a lot with them. And I know Summit Construction right now with Sandia Labs, they're looking at a job in Hawaii. So, you know, some do stay local, but other companies, depending on what you're doing, they travel all over the country and even out of the country, so.
I can tell you, for me, the big thing that the big kick I got out of construction versus working in a store somewhere is when you're stuck in the store, Walmart, Target, any of those, you see the same thing day after day after day. Nothing changes. Maybe the people, but nothing changes. In construction, every day is something different. The environment changes every day, so it's never the same thing day after day. It changes. You finish one project, you start from the bottom all the way to the top out, then you move to the next job. And every day is something different. That's what's exciting about it versus working in a doctor's office or a grocery store or something like that, because you see the same thing day after day after day. And when you do that, you get burned out because it's the same thing. But in construction, it varies. And like I said, there's all aspects of construction. For the laborers, we've got anything from, I actually represent all the security guards at UNM Hospital. We have construction workers that work industrial construction, which is power plants, pipelines, and then we have our general contractors, all the way down to custodians. Los Alamos National Labs, I have the custodial contractor up there, so we do all the custodial cleanup. Then we have the laborers on the other side that are doing from weed whacking all the way to hazardous waste cleanup, handling radiation. So there's all aspects of it. You got highway work. We have a highway contractor here, so they're building roads. So it's what you choose to do. You can get in and start off as a laborer, and from there, basically the old saying, the world's your oyster. It's what you want to make of it. You can go all the way up.
We had a journeyman plumber recently. He worked in our service department, and he left to go work for.
Hampton, please report to the attendance office.
I know, it's only me. He left to join a 4-year apprentice program for linemen, and that is quite the change from a plumber to a lineman to be on the road. And he said he just needed a change, but he wanted to stay in construction. So you can really do anything. You go from being a data tech all the way down to a plumber or to an electrician or to anything. You should really look into all the different career fields. It's not so black and white, and you can definitely find a place for yourself.
I think that's like another thing that appeals to me about construction is, you know, I started out in the field. Joey, you started out in the field, but you know, I'm still in the field now. I still get to go to my job where the action's happening every day. Joey, you work in an office though, you know, just because you're starting out as a laborer or at the bottom doesn't mean you can't transition that. You can be a manager in your company, you can be a project manager, you can stay in the field. There's a lot of different opportunities, and I think that's one of the cool things about construction. You get your first job, you get in the door, and then you see all of the options that are out there, and you can sort of pick and choose. I kind of want to go that way, or maybe I want to be an electrician, or maybe I'd actually rather be in the office. There's a lot of opportunities out there. It's a whole world that you guys can sort of unlock by getting your foot in the door on that first rung of the ladder.
My grandson just got started in construction industry about 6 months ago. He actually works for B&D. He was kind of lost, didn't know where he was going to go, just out of high school, didn't really have a clue what he wanted to do. He was doing home health care, taking care of elderly and stuff like that, and has 2 kids now. So he decided it was time to figure something out and make a career. I put him in my apprenticeship program for the laborers, and he started off there for a couple months. And the wonderful people at B&D stole him and convinced him to become a plumber, but he just completed his first period of being a plumber, and well on his way to making a good living. He's found his niche, something that he wants to do. But he's happy because he's making good money now. He's got benefits to cover his family, and he's got a long ways to go. Like I said, I started off as a laborer 36 years ago, and next year I'll turn 55 and I'll be able to retire early with full benefits because I put my 30 plus years in. And I don't have to work until I'm 60 or 70 years old because I'm gonna have a pension. I'm also gonna be able to afford to pay for my health care, because we all know health care is expensive. But because of the years I put in, my health care, the cost of my health care is gonna be minimal through my union. But, you know, and you see us all up here, we're not, I think the only one that's not in the union is our brother here, but he works for okay, there. But he works for a good company. Now, not all companies are good and not all companies are bad. We have good companies that are non-union, and we have some really bad ones that are non-union, and we have some bad ones that are in the union. But for the most part, guys, there's a career out there for you.
Thanks, everybody.